the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime to discuss trending criminal cases. And, of course, the Dan Markel murder has been going on for the better part of more than a decade. The FSU law professor gunned down in his Tallahassee driveway back in 2014. He had grown up in Toronto, married a woman named Wendy Adelson. After graduating from Harvard and Harvard Law School, he was a rising legal star. Suddenly, his life is snuffed out in his early 40s. On July 18th of 2014, he actually passed away the following day from the gunshot wounds. And now his ex-mother-in-law, Donna Adelson, was set to stand trial. June 3rd was the beginning of jury selection. It is May 9th here. Incidentally, it is my beloved boxer's 4th birthday, Ethel Bug Johnson. So it is a bittersweet day here. But Donna Adelson is expected in court today, and I talked about this yesterday. So there's always a pool camera. However, the pool camera for this particular hearing was supposed to be the CBS station in Tallahassee, and for whatever reason, they are unable to cover it. Donna, however, is on Zoom, which the COE is monitoring. However, we are forbidden by the court to show that part of it. I don't know why, because typically we have seen her, but for some reason, we are not allowed to show that. If we're able, if someone becomes pool camera, which we won't know about, we'll obviously bring it to you. The COE, though, will bring us what she can. I'm not expecting, and maybe I'm completely wrong because there are several motions. We don't really know what's on the docket for today other than a motions hearing. It's a little nebulous, but here to break down hopefully something and nothing is Dr. Melissa Hamilton. She is a former corrections officer here in the great state of Florida. She is also a former police officer and now a law professor at the University of Surrey in the UK. And she'll be here. Oh, look at this. 2 pleasant surprises. Joe Patuto, the professor emerita at the University of Nebraska. She is here as well. So I appreciate both of you being here. Joe, I'll start with you. Another pleasant surprise. We don't know much. And I know you're constantly looking at court docs and the docket here as STS is, but have you learned anything since we talked last night about what to possibly expect here?
Nope, sorry. We finished sort of late, and I don't like mornings, so
I know. Joe, I love that about you because I hate mornings. So I'm a big fan of you not liking mornings. So Dr. Hamilton, you know, we did a show with Joe and Tim Jansen last night, really about the and I don't know why I keep hearing myself, so it's got to be a key open. Is that on me? No, I don't think so. Bottom line is Charlie Adelson filed his appeal last night and basically had 5 different main points as to what was in the appeal. And number 1 and 2 were essentially that there should have been a change of venue. And number 2 was essentially that the jury pool was tainted because I forget the number. Joe would know better than I at this point. But a large number of jurors who were polled basically said, yeah, we've heard about this, and yeah, we think he's guilty. What are your thoughts on this Charlie Adelson appeal before we dive into the Donna stuff? Again, we are waiting on Donna's hearing. It's supposed to start at 9. This could be really quick. We might not have video. We might have some video. The COE is monitoring. As soon as she gets stuff, she will bring it to us and let us know what they're discussing. Hang on a sec. We're getting something right here. So it's going on right now. Ms. Kappelman, have you reviewed the motion and are you prepared to argue this morning? Yes, sir. So Georgia Kappelman is in there. I'm just going to be pulling these up occasionally. We have not seen Georgia Kappelman in the last couple of hearings. There are not new arguments, just regarding old investigations and depositions about Pat Sanford, who's the FBI agent in charge of arresting Donna on the tarmac. That's at least one of his jobs. So let me just start with both of you again. And Dr. Hamilton, I'll start with you. So this is it. We're hearing there's not going to be new motions, but old motions in this one. There's been some talk about, well, could Donna retain her previous investigator, or is that guy conflicted out in terms of these new attorneys? But here it looks like they are discussing old investigations and depositions, specifically regarding Pat Sanford, who's the FBI agent working on this case, who was the one who arrested Donna back on November 10th, I want to say, November 13th of 2023. What do you make of this, that they're discussing this particular investigation and Pat Sanford himself?
Afraid I don't know I have any particular insights on that. Why they're digging up that, I'm not sure what kind of relevant information that detective would have on it. So apologies, I don't have any insight.
No worries. Just back to the Charlie Adelson issue for a moment. What do you make of this appeal that was finally filed, 91-page appeal?
Yeah, well, they have at least legitimate arguments about the change of venue and the jurors. Don't know whether that's going to be sufficient to convince an appellate court. I was surprised there wasn't an ineffective assistance of counsel claim, but I don't know from a procedural perspective whether it was premature for that.
Yeah.
Or,
so Joe, just not to jump in, but I will. Joe, Professor Patuto explained yesterday, and so did Tim, that I guess that would be the next step if the appeal fails. Yeah. So I think maybe it was a little premature. Joe Patuto, I feel your pain because I hate mornings myself. I'm not even, it takes me till 1 o'clock in the afternoon to wake up. But Joe Patuto, we're getting a little more information from this hearing that is apparently happening right now. My best, and we will have the video at some point, I believe. But Jackie Fulford is saying, Joe Patuto, my best example there is a witness regarding Katie McBanawa and the depth of the conflict between Adelson and her prior counsel. This court is not aware of the depth of the conflict, just the surface. So it sounds, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, there was at one point can be some sort of jailhouse informant that had spoken to McBanawa that had information favorable to Donna. Is that what is being discussed here, do you think? Oh, you're muted, Joe.
It could be. Without a little more information as to what exactly they're saying, it's a little hard to be sure because, as you recall, Sanford testified about a lot of things at Charlie's trial, including the wiretaps and other stuff. So,
well, here's a little bit more. So Fulford is saying they had a conflict. This is, by the way, the hearing going on right now, which is COE is basically taking notes on because there's no camera. They had a conflict when they had a question. Why they asked certain questions, I don't know. This is all Jackie Fulford, but we have a right because now we're conflict free. We don't intend to go in and ask the same questions. And then she goes on to say, we want to take depositions that are now conflict of free of counsel. So
yeah,
sounds like they want to, right? So
they
it sounds
want to
like
redepose him, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I guess my question is, why would it be a problem to redepose Pat Sanford if there is, kind of this wall up now, with this new counsel? What would be the issue there?
Yeah, I don't see any issue as to whether, except to the extent that there's some argument that they shouldn't be able to go back and redepose everybody because you'll just be delaying the trial. Off what's being posted right now, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to just go ahead and depose Sanford again if they think that they may get new information or they have different questions that they want to ask him.
Yeah, and Melissa, and good job by the COE here getting us the information. This is now Georgia Kappelman in court this morning, who, again, we haven't seen the last couple of hearings, but she's back. And she says we do, this is obviously the state here, Leon County, we do object to retaking depositions from previous witnesses. I didn't follow the example of McBanawa. That's good because I didn't follow it that closely either. We did do depositions with attorneys. We didn't find anything new that McBanawa has not said before. So Kappelman right away making the point that, look, we did this deposition. There is nothing new. Why should the new defense get to redepose and, to Joe's point, possibly delay this trial anymore? Your thoughts on that, Dr. Hamilton?
Yeah, they're just reaching for everything that they can. I understand why the state would object, because you never know what new thing may come out in a new deposition that would throw a wrench into the works. Because as we've all seen, is this case has its twists and turns, and so they would rather not be another twist come up because of a deposition. But at the same time, they are properly protecting their police officers from being burdened by just additional discovery and having to show up yet again. And I think at the same time, the strategy probably is not to just lay back and accept everything that the defense wants, because we've been seeing that they'll throw out at everything that they can and attempt every additional task they possibly can. Now, yes, they're afraid of yet another reason to delay. So I am not surprised that they're objecting to another deposition of the same person.
Yeah, I mean, to Dr. Hamilton's point, it sounds like they're trying to throw legal spaghetti at the wall. You've got this, some more notes from the COE. Georgia Koppelman saying, I do object redeposing witnesses on the same materials. If it's something new, great. Then it's not a waste of time, but I don't see anything new. So she's making the same point. The judge here now, Judge Stephen Everett, who, by the way, Donna's team is trying to get kicked off the case. Because conflict presented itself when jury was to be selected, the jury couldn't continue. As to that, how in fact is that prejudicing her as to the conflict? Joe, I don't fully understand this. Do you understand that a little better than me?
And let me see because the conflict presented when the jury was selected, the jury couldn't continue. Well, that's a description of, I believe, the fact that they had to adjourn the trial last September because of the conflict. Remember, the jury was there and ready to go. So, but I don't know how that relates to what we just read. I do think that what the defense has been doing, is doing, and will continue to do is anything that they want to do, they're going to say, well, Daniel Rashbaum was conflicted out. He had a conflict. He couldn't have, we can't be sure he asked the right questions. We can't be sure he was doing a vigorous representation of Charlie or of Donna, and therefore we need to go back through and do it all. And that's going to be kind of a boilerplate for them. Whenever they want to do something, I think they're going to point to the conflict and the reason for adjourning the last trial. So I can understand why the state is objecting, because if they're going to do this with everything, it really will take longer. Melissa's right. There might be something that might come up in all these new depositions. On the other hand, I think Judge Everett's going to be really careful with all this, because the defense is saying they can't be sure it was done correctly. And the reason why they can't be sure is the other lawyer had a conflict. And when you put those two things together, you're going to have a judge who's going to lean way over backwards to allow the defense to say they, the unconflicted lawyers, need to be representing Donna to the best of their ability.
And right on cue, Jackie Fulford saying, I would need to consult this as Donna's attorney with Adelson, meaning Donna. And then the judge saying, very well, I'll take this into consideration. I can just see Judge Everett saying, very well. COE, would you like to jump in here? Doing a great job.
Yeah, so the hearing ended. It was just a couple of minutes.
Oh, wow.
And apologies, as I wasn't listening since I was transcribing and listening to the Zoom, so you may have gone over it. But what they were really focused on was the fact that there was this big conflict previously, and now there is no longer that conflict with these new attorneys. So what Fulford was saying over and over again is that now that the conflict is gone, she wants to have a chance at deposing various witnesses. And she really focused on Corbett and on Catherine McBanawa. And specifically, she said the issue with Catherine McBanawa was that previously there was a major conflict issue with Donna Adelson's former attorney, and she said that we really only know the surface of the extent of the conflict, but that there is a lot more depth to that conflict that she can't get into today.
This is Jackie saying this, Jackie Fulford?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so she's saying because of that, she wants a chance at redeposing Catherine McBanawa because she thinks that they would be able to ask different questions and get different information. And she says that because of the conflict, she feels very limited for the witnesses that they have.
Yeah. Hey, COE, you want to go cover Diddy? You're doing a great job. I'll watch the kids for the week. Silence. Bill Davis. Joel, didn't the Adelsons provide, Joe, I think you might have a handle on this. I'm not exactly sure 100% what Bill is asking, but Joel, didn't the Adelsons provide Katie's lawyer? I don't know if they mean financially, or was that ever established and was part of the reason she turned down the immunity deal?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry.
Right, no, you go ahead, Joe.
There was a lot of speculation as to how Katie was paying her lawyers in the first trial and then in the second trial. And I believe there was some in-camera questioning done by the judge at the time. And the result of all that was, so far as we know, there was no evidence that the Adelsons paid for Katie's lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, they allowed her to make a critical mistake, which is not taking a plea deal, and she's now spending the rest of her life. I mean, that's just, to me, I just can never wrap my of her life. Why? And I guess it was to protect Sigfredo. Maybe it just doesn't add up in my head. But you've got Wesley John Holmes and Aussie living in Tokyo. Everett, the judge must be PO'd by now. Seriously, I'm sure he's not happy. Dr. Hamilton, this point that the COE just raised, that Jackie raised, and by the way, it's a very short hearing. It's already over, so we'll just break down a few more minutes, and I'd like to get Dr. Hamilton's take on some of the appeal stuff as well, and then we'll close it out. No Phil and Scott today. Family takes precedence. My son's birthday is not until May 14th, but since I'm going to Diddy and there's other stuff happening, we're doing his birthday party in the afternoon. So I tried to squeeze it in, and the COE just looked at me, didn't say anything, just looked at me. And as a matter of fact, she looked at me and I wasn't even there. I was here and I just knew no show today. So there you go. Dr. Hamilton, you heard the COE say that Jackie Fulford basically tells the Judge Everett, you don't really know the depth of this conflict. What does that mean?
What does that
mean? I mean,
that intrigues me quite a lot. Does that mean that Donna might be turning on Charlie? Because what else could a more depth of the conflict that we don't know of mean exactly?
Wow.
And certainly they're doing a lot of questioning of the abilities of Rashbaum and the other attorneys. So both together is making me wonder, is Donna about to flip against Charlie to save her own neck? Because otherwise, what does all that mean? But again, they just throw in a wrench into this and suggest something that they're not following up on, and to the extent of the conflict. So yeah, I think that's quite intriguing. Although maybe it's a red herring on purpose. Although I don't know what goal they'd have other than confusion.
Yeah. That definitely caught my attention out of everything. The fact that we don't know the quote unquote depth of this conflict. That also maybe there's something there with Rashbaum that I don't know, that we just don't know about. But CJ here with and by the way, in a few minutes, I'll give everyone in STS Nation a chance to ask these two great guests any questions related to this case. I guess you can throw in some questions about Italy and the Pope for Joe if you want, but we'll do that. This will obviously be a shorter show than typical, but what is the defense's end game, Joe? I can't believe they think there will be an acquittal. I don't know that they think there will be an acquittal myself, but But what about on top of that, Joe? Exactly what we were just talking about, this depth of the conflict. And Dr. Hamilton suggested maybe something's going on. Is it possible that she just mentioned, Dr. Hamilton, that Donna could be turning on Charlie? Could Charlie be turning on Donna, or could they both be turning on Wendy? And we just don't know about any of this. What are the possible scenarios, I guess, from a comment like that?
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's related to one or the other or both, or you put the combinations together that somebody's ready to flip. What I'm guessing is going on is they believe there are more issues or places where Daniel Roshbaum's prior representation of Charlie and his representation of Donna before Charlie's trial, uh, that they can point to potential places where something wasn't done or something wasn't asked that could have been done or could have been asked. And they've got to be in part speculating about this as to what it was that that Daniel Roshbaum failed to do or didn't do correctly. I think that's what they're talking about. And so then they segue to therefore, we don't have confidence that when he deposed Catherine or when he deposed Corbett, uh, that he did a thorough job and asked enough questions, asked the right questions, followed potential leads to their conclusion. And therefore, since we can't have confidence that he did it correctly because of the seriousness of the conflict that we see, our only choice is to go back and do it again so we can ask those questions. Now, what Georgia keeps saying is, you're talking about that in general, but you haven't pointed to anything new, that's going to come of this. It's going to be a new deposition, but there's nothing on the record that you've made right now that shows you're going to find anything. And I'm sure they're pushing back, saying it's their defense case and it's their theory of the defense. And all they should have to do is to say conflict was more serious than we thought or the judge thought in September. We can't trust then that the prior a lawyer with the conflict did it properly. And so the only solution is to go back and give us the chance to do it ourselves. I think
Yeah, and
that's what's going on.
by the way, I think you may have just answered this, but when Fulford, when Georgia says in regards to Pat Sanford, well, there's no need to depose him because there's nothing new. How is Georgia, I guess, my question, just playing devil's advocate, how is she so well aware that nothing is new? Is it the defense's job to not take her at her word and find out for themselves?
Well, the latter is clearly the defense's job. You can't take your adversary's word, no matter how ethical and honorable and truthful your adversary is. You can't do that. You've got an obligation to defend your client. And you may feel you've got information that the state doesn't know that calls into question the state's conclusion. If the state knew what you knew, the state wouldn't say there's nothing new. It sounds like in all of this, that whatever it is that the depth of the conflict that they're saying exists, either they're only speculating and therefore they can't point to anything in particular that says it's more serious than you thought. And that's what Georgia's pushing back on. Give us some reason to believe how deep this conflict was. Or they do have information as to the depth of the conflict that they haven't yet shared. Now, whether they're going to have to make some in-camera showing, whether they believe it's part of their defense case and they shouldn't have to do it. It doesn't sound like from the transcript that the judge is going to do anything more than consider what the representations were today and what they've argued in the past, because I don't think this is the first time they've said something like the depth of the conflict is more serious than originally thought.
Yeah. I guess we just don't know, but the fear factor here is that this trial could again be continued, which I know no one wants, especially not the Markells.
Yeah, and Joel, what's been surprising me about this is back in last September, Donna was all, guns to go. She
Mhm.
didn't want to delay.
Yeah.
She even, if you recall on the record at one point in the conflict situation, said on the record because the lawyer that was appointed to talk to her said that he told her, gee, if we don't take some time and look at it, your defense may be injured out of all of this because we don't know. And she said, I still want to go. So she was really gung ho about this in September. And now here we are in May of the next year, and she seems, completely on board with a delay and another delay and yet another delay. So it's a shift in her feeling. Maybe she's decided she really likes being in jail.
I don't know. People out there said, well, maybe she's protecting Wendy. I don't see that, to be honest, at this point.
Do I?
Lou G
Joel,
said, yeah.
Hey, I just want to hop in here, following up with what Joe just said. Kappelman did emphasize that this is a waste of time. She did say, she said those words. She said, this is a waste of time unless we have anything new, and I haven't been able to see anything new. Fulford specifically was talking about Corbett, Pat Sanford, and Catherine McBanawa.
Yeah.
And
Corbett, for those who don't know, is Tallahassee police who handles all the digital forensics, all the texts and all that.
yeah, and for each of those cases, Fulford said that because of the conflict of interest, she thought that would give them reason to go back and redepose them. But Kappelman made it very clear that she thought this was just a waste of time. And the bottom line from Judge Everett is that unless there is any kind of new information, just what Joe said, he will consider it, but it will just be a consideration at this point.
By the way, Georgia Kappelman just a long time ago when we had her on promised that she will come back on after these cases. So eventually we will get Georgia back on here, and maybe we will invite Sarah Catherine Dugan as well. Go ahead, Joe Patuto.
Yeah, the other thing I would say about the delays is this could just be the tip of the iceberg. I mean, what they're saying now is here are the three we need to do. Okay, so if Judge Everett allows them to redepose these three people, they could easily come back and then say, now we found some information that leads us to need to depose, and then have another set of people that need to be deposed. I mean, that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility in all this. But I do think Judge Everett will and needs to be really careful. There's nothing more critical on the defense side than a claim that the defendant's lawyer, because of a loyalty to another client, didn't zealously represent the current client. And you can't make a more serious claim than that in terms of at least the defense's representation and the the progress of this trial.
Bottom line here, the COE has this. The judge says if there would be new information, he would consider new depositions, but doesn't appear there's anything new. I mean, this is a circular conversation, Dr. Hamilton, but right back to the point I made earlier, wouldn't Jackie, and to what Joe was just saying, wouldn't Jackie Fulford, the attorney, and Josh Selman have to come to the judge either in camera or otherwise and say to him, this, we have something new. They can't just say, we need a new deposition without bringing the goods as to why they need a new deposition, right?
Well, at this point, because of the repeated continuances, the judge probably is leaning more toward, yes, having them justify it. But at the same time, might be risk averse to appellate issues. So don't know which way it will go. But I agree with Joe in terms of this could be just a play on the part of the defense counsel, which is if they get one deposition and one piece of information new that's valuable, then they could go to the judge and say, see, we do need to open up everyone else. And in terms of them, I guess litigators probably have a lot of confidence in their own abilities. So even if a prior attorney deposed somebody, each new one might think, well, but I can do better. I can elicit information that they didn't, just because they have often confidence in their own abilities. And in terms of Donna's change of heart in terms of how fast this trial is, at the beginning, and this can be common in terms of inmates and particularly female inmates, is the difficult time they have in prison is at the very beginning, and then they can kind of adjust. And particularly since I understand that she's been in protective custody, and so away from menacing other ones, is maybe she just has now figured out how to do prison, because it is something, kind of a hurdle you get over, which is scary at first, but at some point you have to figure out how you're going to live in there. And so maybe she has decided that she has the ability to withstand it, and she has figured out how to do prison. And at the same time, she's an interesting client that still, we think, has a lot of money to pay her lawyers. She likes to be in control of things. And so if her lawyers are saying we can do X, Y, Z, maybe she's now willing to say, yes, I want you to do all of that, because there might be a chance that something valuable comes up that will save her in the end. So maybe that's just some reflections on a combination of things that may be going on, and to why she has a different perspective.
We're going to get to this question one sec, but and I'm coming to you, Joe. But Dr. Hamilton, did you say that you preferred the men's prison over the women's prison? Is that what you said?
I thought male inmates, even maximum security male inmates, were easier to deal with than the female inmates.
I have no comment on that. Joe Patuto, well, your thoughts? You had your hand up there.
Yeah, I did. And this is conjecture, and you know what conjecture is worth.
Mm-hmm.
But the three witnesses that these defense is talking about redeposing, Katie, Corbett, and was it Sanford?
At Sanford, yeah.
Okay, so those are the three. And you recall that one really significant piece of evidence at Charlie's trial were the pings on the and ping, I know, is not the technical term, but even if this were later in the day, I don't think I could do better with a technical term. The pings from the phone as to where Donna and Harvey were the night of the murder. Remember, Katie said, I think they stopped and left off the money.
Yeah.
And Corbett was able to say, well, where the pinging is was in the neighborhood of Charlie's home at the time. And the defense wants to hire, may well have hired Sawicki by this point, and they were pointing to that evidence that they want to look at again. So the three people here, Katie, with regard to what she really might know about whether Donna stopped at Charlie's house, Corbett, who was supporting it with the cell phone records as to where Katie might have been, and even Sanford, who testified as to the cell phone records or other things. It at least suggests that one avenue that they want to pursue, apparently more aggressively than Rashbaum did in the depositions, is this particular issue. And they may now have information from Sawicki. I don't know how fast he can work.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them reason to do it. Now, if that's true, that would be potentially new information that they're not saying they have. Otherwise, Georgia wouldn't be.
That's a great point.
Because
because we don't really know what Sawicki's up to. All I know is that he's very well respected. He's good at what he does. He's a former police officer, and he's an attorney, but he has a digital forensics firm based out of Tampa, I believe. For a person who doesn't want to be in jail, she sure is requesting a lot of delays. You just heard Dr. Hamilton say maybe she's adjusting to jail. It's kind of a crazy thought, but who knows? Then there's this comment. And Dr. Hamilton, I'm curious, we all kind of love and revere Judge Stephen Everett. He's just a likable guy, but is there any kind of finger pointing to be done his way for maybe allowing this conflict originally without taking a stronger look at it, and that now gets us in the position that we're in now? I mean, should the judge have kind of ruled with a bit of more of an iron legal fist? Oh, you're muted, Dr. Hamilton. Sorry, gets us every time.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. In retrospect, it's easier to call him out for not having dealt with it enough, but at the time, he was trying to comply with what the defense themselves was requesting. and he was asking the right questions, and he was assured no issue. So the balance there is, if he had denied them, then they would have had a complaint that you're now allowing this defendant to have the counsel of their choice. So it was not an easy position for him to have been at, in meaning that in the end the defense would have complained either way. So there was he was in a kind of a no-win situation at that point. But but here I'm complaining about in retrospect, but that's what appellate courts do too, is they look at things in hindsight, and they act like everyone should have seen the outcome beforehand. So they're mixing hindsight and foresight, but that's the appellate system.
Yeah. And I do want to get to that appeal at the very end here. If you guys have questions, I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom. Please put in those triple Qs, just so I can see it right off the bat, and I'll get the questions to Joe and Melissa. Deer in the headlights here. There's so many like possible iterations and multiples of what could potentially happen on top of nothing, and there's all the cases moving forward. But here, Joe, deer in the headlights, would Donna potentially be offered? So I don't know what kind of deal, if any, Charlie would get, right, to turn on anybody, except maybe to, I don't know, be put in a place where he doesn't have to worry about getting killed. But would Donna be offered a deal to get Wendy potentially? Is that something that could be that they're trying to work out behind the scenes?
Well, anything is possible, but I would really doubt it. They haven't offered her a deal up to this point. Doesn't seem to me that there's anything new here so far that would lead them to offer her a deal. And I don't know what deal they could offer her that she would take. I mean, I can't imagine that the deal would be, even though you were involved and you may have been the motivating force behind all this, you can walk free if you give us Wendy. That just doesn't ring to me as anything that the prosecution would do. And they've got her evidence of trying to flee the country, which is pretty powerful evidence that they're going to be able to use in this trial. So I think they're very confident they're going to get a conviction here. So
yeah. By the way, someone nervously asked, "Is Donna going to get convicted?" I mean, the short answer is no one knows. But I guess the betting odds are that evidence is against her. But you never know what a jury's going to do. From Lee T. Joel, would you text Ruth to wish her a beautiful Mother's Day from STS? And I will definitely do that. I will shoot her a quick little note, and I wish there was something we could kind of do collectively. I don't know what, but yeah, I will do that. This comes back to another question, Dr. Hamilton, related to this whole mess in front of us right now. New counsel keeps stating the court isn't fully aware of the depth of the conflict regarding prior counsel. Does the court or the bar have the right to demand the new counsel to disclose it? That's interesting. So can the judge compel them, or the bar? And what I was getting at earlier is, at one point I reached out, or people at STS reached out, and I think I did as well. And they said that there was an inquiry opened into Dan Rashbaum, and then nothing else was heard about that. And we talked to the bar since then and said that there was nothing, at least publicly, that could be disclosed. But the question here, nevertheless, is, can either Judge Everett or potentially the Florida bar, I don't know why they would get involved, say, hey, you got to let us know what this conflict is if you keep bringing it up in court?
I think because they're requesting something from him, which is the permission to do depositions again based on that argument. So that's why Joe had mentioned the in-camera hearing, which is then a hearing just before the judge, so that only the information about that conflict need not be released. So yes, the judge could decide, yes, you need to, if this is the basis of your argument, he doesn't have to trust them either, and can say, you have to give me at least a little bit so that I can make that ruling. Although then he can seal that evidence if appropriate, so that the rest of the world, including us, don't find out about it.
This is an interesting comment from my friend Edward B. Murphy. Maybe Harvey is the real maestro and just wanted to jettison his whole family without having to kill or pay them. I mean, he'd also be an incredibly smart criminal, but it's kind of coming to fruition for Harvey. And Harvey, I don't know. I mean, Joe, we talked about this a million times, but do you think, they obviously, yeah, Florida bar is not going to get involved in an ongoing case. That's what I thought. Thank you, Jared. Jared, for those who don't know, friend of mine, friend of the show, and also helps run Justice for Dan Markel, which you can Google and go there and support Dan Markel through that organization, Justice for Dan Markel. Harvey. So my question was, Joe, they're going through this methodically. Obviously, Charlie, now Donna, potentially Wendy. I mean, do you think that they have their eyes on Harvey? I mean, I hate to say this, I really do, but at 81 or 82, and he looks a little haggard, do they say to themselves, I mean, is there like a league? Are they even allowed to say to themselves, well, this guy is 82, we're just not going to go after him? Or is that, like, legally, are they not permitted to think that way in terms of from the perspective of the state attorney's office?
Yeah, well, a prosecutor has discretion, and actually most of the discretion vests in the prosecutor as to whether to bring charges or not to bring charges. And the prosecution looks at a lot of different elements to decide. One of them is how strong is the case? What's the evidence like? Uh, but it's not the only consideration. They will consider and try to decide the strength of the case, what the what how a jury will respond to a particular defendant, because that's part of trying to decide, do we have a reasonable basis to think we'd get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt?
Mm.
And prosecutors look at things like resources in the office, and this is what this is getting to: resources. Do you want to go after somebody who's 81 or 82 who looks, as though he's ill? By the time you can actually put that case together, because in order to do it, you got to get through Donna's case, and we don't even know when Donna's case will be set for trial before we can get to, let's say they wanted to do Harvey next, and Harvey, then his lawyers will need a period of time to get ready for trial for him. So you're looking at quite a ways out. So it's not inconceivable that they would consider his age in doing all this. On the other hand, age really, certainly as a matter of law, is not relevant to any of this. You committed a crime. It doesn't matter whether you were 20 or 80. And the crime was a pretty serious crime. And particularly if they think he was more than a bystander who knew what was going on and helped a little. I mean, if they've got the view that he really had an integral part of this, then they're more likely to decide we're going to go after him, whether it's today or tomorrow or 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah. Again, from day one, my shrewd, sagacious mother has been saying that he's complicit in all this. Jared Ross having a conversation with AA back there about the investigation with Dan Rashbaum and the bar. We do know the bar opened an investigation at some point, but we don't know if the investigation is ongoing, closed, or what the outcome has been. I do know he has not been disciplined on his record. So you've got that. This case is bonkers. Are we ever going to see a trial? Well, right now, that trial is supposed to be August 19th. And Judge Everett, I can tell you, wants to stick to that date, but he also wanted to stick to June 3rd. Sadness for the Markels, a profound and horrifying loss of their beloved only son. And where is justice for Dan Markel? It's another good point. T. Cancella, if you remember, there was a birthday party for Harvey, and something that was his gift was this murder for hire, which happened. He's like 81 or 82, would put it right, the timing right about when Dan, obviously, when his life was being taken. This is interesting. Dr. Hamilton, you've worked inside the prison system. You're a police officer, so you understand the criminal mind better than most. What's your best guess about what goes through a person like Wendy Adelson's mind on Father's Day, which is quickly following Mother's Day, knowing that she very well could have been part of this conspiracy to have her kid's father killed? What do you think's going on in her mind? Is it all about her, or is she actually thinking about Dan Markel?
Well, a lot of times, criminals, particularly those who, that's conjecture whether she is, but the mindset often, particularly for those who don't have their own criminal history background, is they justify it. So they justify their bad end is they deserved it or they did bad and evil, and so that's how they are able to live with themselves. So she's probably has convinced herself that everyone was better off, and that she's described him as doing evil things and that he was mean to her and such. And so in her mind, he did not deserve the same human rights as others, and that perhaps she even has flipped it to he brought it on himself. So very likely some kind of justification to herself that he's the one who did wrong and not her or her family.
By the way, I got a beautiful comment. I do look at all the YouTube comments when I do have time. There's a lot of them, but I looked at some yesterday, and one just brought a tear to my eye. It was so sweet. It said, "I hate your show, but I'm absolutely addicted now." And I told that person it's better to be addicted to my show than to crack cocaine. And but I asked that person, I said, "Why did you try so hard to hate it so much?" And am waiting to get a response. The very next comment said, I also try to not like the show, and I don't like it because it's too long and too boring. To which I said, thank you. So I'm just giving you a little insight into my life at 12:30 in the morning after I do these shows, but did bring a tear to my eye. She said she's addicted. Is she yelling at me for talking about this? Joel mumbling. Am I mumbling? I do mumble a little bit, which is weird since my job was speaking on camera. So, Dr. Hamilton, back to you. This was filed May 7th, this appeal from Charlie. We'll talk about this for a couple of minutes and a couple of last questions, and then we will wind it up. It was filed by Michael Ufferman, who they say is among, if not the best appellate attorney in Florida, among them, and his associate or partner, Laurel Cornell Niles is her name. They're basically seeking a reversal of all convictions and a new trial. The grounds for appeal was, one of them is a denial of a change of venue. And then they get into the jury veneer, saying that 96 of 130 jurors questioned had heard of the case. 54 had opinions. 53 of those believed that Charlie was guilty. We talked about this with Joe and Tim last night. Those people were not selected as jurors. And the basic general argument is, look, this is a high profile case. People are going to hear about it. Any high profile case, or not even so high, maybe it's high profile in a particular jurisdiction, but I mean, what do you do about this? Is there an appellate case to be made here, do you think? Oh, wait, sorry about this. Jared Ross's wife is the best appellate attorney in Florida. I stand corrected, but go ahead, Joe.
So they are using statistics to try to indicate that even though those individual potential jury members that indicated they knew of the case and they'd already judged it, none of them were picked. The implication is that probably at least some of the other ones who denied already knowing and or having an opinion probably also got through. So it seems to be an implication and trying to use statistics for that. But you're right overall in that even though there can be an argument this was high profile, this was certainly in the Tallahassee Democrat for quite a while, there are still a lot of people in communities who don't really know about true crime or what's going on. They don't read the paper. So in a city like Tallahassee, yes, you definitely could find people who weren't aware of it, but that, there's valid arguments for the defense to make. And if I could just add on to the comment about whether the father is too old to be prosecuted, that is a consideration that the prosecutor can look at. But just an anecdote from my own background as a police officer, I remember responding to a shoplifting call where they had the shoplifting suspect in hand, and the person was old, and I don't really know how old they were because I was probably 20 years old at the time. But I remember saying to myself, I don't want to bring this older person into the jail because I will be embarrassed. So because of their older age, thinking jail is not seem to be the right environment for them. So it does. So the anecdote just there is that that's something that we might sometimes just from a personal perspective consider is we don't really envision older people being there. But as Joe mentioned, is even though that might be a consideration, it's probably not nearly as important if they really think they have the evidence to pursue him.
Yeah. Shout out, by the way, to thank you for that, Jackie St. Germain, who sent us a song, AA Legal Focus, one of the original people following this on YouTube. And everyone, this is a public service announcement from Neuropsych Xena. Today is my youngest child's 18th birthday. It's also my Independence Day legally from my ex-husband. Just saying. This is how most people handle tough divorces, custody issues, to not harm the kids more. Yes, if you're out there and you're going through a rough patch in your marriage and you're thinking, well, maybe I'll just kill my spouse, it is not a good idea. Please listen to Jackie St. Germain. Sadly, it seems like a lot of people choose the more severe route, if you will, to get out of a marriage. It's probably not a good idea. So take a deep breath before you think about doing anything crazy. Professor Hamilton, one of the other issues in the appeal, two other quick ones, was an exclusion of text messages where basically Charlie and Donna are quote unquote having normal text conversations that were excluded to show that they weren't just texting about the conspiracy. And then the last real major point was a wiretap call where Charlie essentially says this is not how extortion is done, that was not allowed in. And it would have basically played to the defense that Charlie had been extorted earlier and that he was just a victim in all this. But in context, it doesn't necessarily play out that way. And so these are the major things. Do any of these stand out to you as a serious sort of grounds for appeal where we'll see Charlie's trial basically overturned and he will be given a new trial? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think those two arguments are not their strongest compared to the potential jury issue, for instance. In terms of the text messages, my guess is just that there was not a direct relevance to the particular case, because otherwise then potentially they could try to get in all communications between them, which could be voluminous. Not quite so sure on why they excluded the particular voice call about this is how extortion was done. But yeah, those aren't, to me, they're most likely winning arguments compared to the venue and jury impanelment question.
Joe, I got to ask you, since I'm going to go up and cover Diddy. By the way, it says Sunny Side Up. I love that name. Professor Joe, would you consider becoming a judge, Joe Patuto? Would you do it?
Sure, I would consider becoming a judge. Nobody's going to ask me, though. I was a quasi judge when I was on the NCAA infractions committee, because that's what we did. We reviewed university athletic departments' violations of NCAA bylaws and acted as both judge and jury in those cases, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. By the way, Michael, who I haven't seen before, I don't think, welcome, and welcome to all the new names. Don advised that using Rashi could affect her defense. When does that get used to stop this constant complaining about Rashbaum? We'll go back to the whole waiver issue. But Joe Patuto, I had a different question for you. So I'm going up to cover Diddy. And again, we talked about it yesterday. There's a good chance I'll be watching the trial from, I don't know, either like a crack in the wall or I won't be watching it because it's impossible to get into. But it'll be a fun plane ride to New York, nevertheless. Right now, one of the first three witnesses who is supposed to be called, I don't know if you know this, is MIA. They cannot find this witness, and the lawyer is not responding, at least as of last night. And the talk of the town is that Diddy is, I don't know, affecting witnesses, intimidating witnesses, whatever the word is. Are you surprised by this? The trial starts on Monday. They're seating the jury today, apparently. Thank you, Real Happy. Happy birthday to Judah Mack. Happy Mother's Day. But what about this? They can't find one of, and this witness apparently is said to possibly have taken the stand for up to 3 days. So it could be a very important witness. What do you do if you're the government and you can't find your witness?
Well, it's clearly a problem. That's the easiest thing to be said about it. They're obviously trying to find him.
I
They're
think
also,
it might be a she. Good
are
chance it's a
she?
she. Yeah.
Okay. They're also clearly investigating whether Diddy could have had any hand in the witness now not being able to be found. And there was, if you recall, one of the arguments that the U.S. attorney made when Diddy was arguing to be released. And they said, we put all these things in place, and we'll put all this money in the pot. One of the arguments that was made was a worry that he might try to influence witnesses that were going to be testifying against him, and he can certainly do that from jail. But ultimately, if they can't find the witness, they're posed a difficulty either to delay going forward with the trial while they continue to find the witness, or deciding to go ahead with the trial without the witness because they think they have enough evidence. I mean, there isn't a third alternative. They can't bring in an avatar to speak for the witness. They either have the witness or they don't have the witness. And if they, and then they've got to make a judgment call as to whether it's worth it to go without the witness or to wait. And I would assume that the judge would give them some time to try to find the witness. I suspect that they're going to be asking the witness's lawyer, what the lawyer knows about what's happened.
Yeah. Apparently, they're unable to get to the lawyer as well, which is even more interesting and intriguing.
Doesn't the lawyer have an office? Where did the lawyer go? Is he MIA too?
That's what to be honest, I just haven't had time to get that deep into it, but I'm going to today because I'm headed there. But
I've been planning to look at it some too, and I just haven't. Partly because the facts in that case are just
horrific.
I don't like them, and therefore I've got to make myself do it. Although the Madeline Soto case, I have the same feeling. I just hate those facts.
Yeah,
but that one I have been paying attention to because that one really distresses me.
Yeah, and that one I'm planning to go to as well, which I can't say I'm looking forward to that testimony at all. Once again, we're getting a conversation in the chat. I can tell you Space Coast is the best unequivocally with audio. This is not on our end. I hope the YouTube algorithm picks this up. I want it to. I'm going to file a class action lawsuit. I'm going to get every YouTuber in the world. They dominate the market and they can't get their audio right. So Joe Patuto is going to be spearheading that cause, and we're going to sue YouTube for $8 trillion, and I'm going to give equal percentages to everyone who is a member of STS Nation and all best guests once we get the $8 trillion settlement. But YouTube, get your crap together and figure out your audio on your end. I apologize to those who are having a problem. T. Cancella, my STS merch just arrived. Please tag us on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. I'll put it up there. It is nice new stuff, and it's soft, and it's cozy. And the COE did it all and made it a little more, how do I say this, female friendly. People did not like my logos. They liked the COE's logos. Space Coast, who is also he knows the medium, he knows YouTube, says that he has been hearing about this has been an issue with YouTube the last bunch of days. Wesley John Holmes is in on this class action suit. The more the merrier. There you go. We'll get some final thoughts. Dr. Melissa Hamilton, it was a surprise that she showed up. I was not aware, but that's me, not her. And again, former corrections officer in the great state of Florida, former police officer, and now a professor of law. She's literally done it all in the legal realm. What happens with this trial now, Dr. Hamilton? It's set now, was June 3rd, now August 19th. Are we going to have to come back at some point and say, well, no, it's after Christmas now. It's going to be in the new year. Is there a chance of that? I hope not.
I wouldn't put a whole lot of money betting that it will happen on August 19th. So never know. And by the way, yeah, I wanted to confirm I did not horn my way in. It was an invitation from your team. But I do have to then drop off because I had a pre-existing
Yeah.
commitment at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Thanks so much, Dr. Hamilton. We'll call on you. I'm going to drop you out so you can do your thing. Dr. Detective, by the way, Dr. Detective Troy Looney has a show premiering on STS Talk, which is our second channel, True Crime Talk. The handle is STS Talk. It's premiering at 10:15. Everyone here can be or will be redirected to that. Joe Patuto, you're the best. You're always here. I don't know if this is sarcasm. Mike Stevens says, free beautiful Donna, unless this is, I don't know, Donna's boyfriend, the COE immediately removing that. We will redirect the chat. So everyone here will go to Dr. Detective Troy Looney. The programming and the content never ends at STS. Joe Patuto, percentage-wise, 50%, 60%, 70%. What are the chances that this trial now starts August 19th?
Well, before I give you a percentage, let me say, one, predicting the future is always chancy.
Mm-hmm.
And two, predicting the future when you don't have full facts in the present makes it chancier. And we just don't know the extent to which some of the claims that the defense is making as to why they need to redepose, what the basis can be. I think there's a reasonable guess that they're conjecturing and they don't know. I guess what I'll say is if Judge Everett permits them to redepose the three witnesses, then I probably would not put the chances of the August 19th date at more than maybe 50%. If they're not permitted to take these new depositions because they can't show anything new, then I think we're probably at 75 or 80% that August 19th date sticks.
All right, there you go. You got those numbers. By the way, I'm heading up to New York on Sunday. It's going to be tricky. I hope I can actually get into this trial. Otherwise, again, it'll be a long plane ride. I have a very good friend from college days who lives down there, and I'm going to be staying with him. The last thing he said to me is, I hope you have no allergies to cats. I've got a few cats. I'm highly allergic to cats. So when you see me next week and it appears that I've been sobbing, it's not because of anything nefarious. It's just that I am basically just trying to breathe and stay alive.
Get a prescription or take Benadryl with you.
It's great advice. Honestly, I never would have thought to do that, but thank God for Joe Patuto.
And don't fly into Newark. Go fly into LaGuardia if you can, because Newark's having major delays and cancellations right now. So
I am flying into LaGuardia. Yeah, they're also having problems directing airplanes, which is a problem when you have an airport. But that's a whole other story, Joe.
Well, you know that they were using Philadelphia to help with the air traffic in Newark, and then the computer system went out, and there was about a minute or 70 seconds a couple of days ago where no one knew where the planes were that were in the sky over the airport. So yeah, it's a challenge, I guess. And
one thing that no one should ever do is actually talk to a pilot. I know a few pilots, and the stories that they tell you are horrifying. Mainly that they'll literally just be sleeping, facing the other way in the cockpit while the plane is at like 38,000 feet. These are things I never want to know. So my advice,
automatic pilot. It's not as that the risk is takeoff and landing. Once they're up there, the risk is minimal.
Joe,
spoken by someone who's never flown a plane. So
and you have to have gone through the Holocaust like my mom. She's a little more paranoid than you, I think. So
well, I figure what's going to happen is going to happen. So
you're more I don't know, you're less angst ridden, I guess. Professor Joe, with a good medical advice, I recommend extended release antihistamine, such as Allegra. I want to go out and I'm going to get myself. The planes are on autopilot, Space Coast says, until landing. That is true. anyone who trusts autopilot, that's like, I don't know, me trusting AI to do my show. I just don't trust it. So maybe it's a little safer with the autopilot. It is, as Roxanne A says, today, I'm sorry, in 5 days, it's my son's 6th birthday, but we're celebrating today. I'll be posting some pictures on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. I consider everyone here family, one big happy family. The scariest part of flying, according to Ned, is driving to the airport. There's no doubt about that. That is true. Look at this. Mary, I'm a retired flight attendant. Boy, do I have stories. Mary, one day when I'm done flying, I'll reach out. It's scary. So it is Mother's Day. Have a beautiful, lovely Mother's Day. I will reach out to Ruth Markel on behalf of STS Nation. J-Max basketball birthday party day. Can you believe this? The COE gets him. He's got like a little basketball uniform today, and it's green and white, the Celtics colors, while the Knicks are kicking the crap out of the Celtics, and I'm a Knicks fan. And she's like, oh, green looks good on him. It's like, that's not what you buy. It doesn't say Celtics. It's just green and white and the Celtics colors. And I looked at my son yesterday, and I said, what are you doing? And he looked at me like, what do you mean? And I said, you're wearing the wrong team. COE jumps in. It was almost a brawl in the family, but he'll wear the green. Just ignore it if you see Instagram photos. You can also follow me on Twitter for showtimes at Podcast STS. Joe Patuto, the STS VIP of the week. She's been here breaking all this stuff down. Unfortunately, the Dan Markel Adelson story seems to have no end, so we'll be back talking about it. But next week will be Diddy filled, for better or for worse. Love you, America. Love you, Jersey. And as you see here, justice for Dan Markel. Happy Mother's Day. Happy birthday, Judah. Justice for Dan.